Hi guys. Sorry about the noise, the leaf blower. So last week I was in a pretty bad situation. Felt like a lot of things were going wrong at once, and things were kind of closing in, I guess. And at the time, it felt like there's kind of no way out of this. There's no way around it. This is the situation. And while that was happening, it occurred to me how many times I felt that way before. How many times I've been in a situation I felt like this can't improve, this is just it. And then somehow, kind of miraculously, the situation does improve. The key word is improve, you know. It's rare, I think, that you're in like a really bad situation, lots of things going wrong at once, and suddenly all of it just goes away. That doesn't happen much, at least not to me. But what has happened so many times is there's like a kind of feeling of like disaster or crisis, and lots of things are really bad, and then they kind of, maybe, you know, a few different aspects of the situation kind of independently improve. Your perspective on it improves, and then that kind of takes the pressure out of things and makes it easier to think and strategize and deal with things. And then suddenly you find yourself, you know, a few days later, like in a situation that looks and feels very different to what you were in. So not just that the circumstances improve, but your reaction does as well. And it can be hard to imagine how that can happen at the time. I think partially because you sort of think this situation isn't going to end. This is just what it is, and you can't change that. And as I mentioned at the beginning, you know, like maybe you can't completely fix the situation. Maybe it's something that, you know, to some degree is what it is, but maybe not entirely. Maybe some parts of it will change, or even, you know, I wouldn't say every cloud has a silver lining. There's some clouds in life that don't have a silver lining, but you know, a lot of them do. And you can also kind of try to give them a silver lining yourself. By using them as an impetus to react positively to change things in your life that are overdue, like in need of a change. So I've been doing that because I sort of hit a point like last week where I was like, man, failed the driving test again, have like no money, I have to pay to do it again, I have to pay for more classes, I have to fucking take time off work, I have to pay to get there, all this stuff. And I was like, man, this is just fucked. Like, this is absolutely fucked. And then, like, you know, after like a day of just feeling depressed about it, I was like, right, I need to like use this as motivation to try and improve my situation financially, and to kind of just give me a kick up the arse, really. And what I think is, like, if something happens to you, something bad happens to you once, like you have an incident, a moment, you know, something bad like that happens to you, you lose £500 or fucking dollars or whatever, you lose a big sum of money. You could just think, oh, that's it, I just lost that money. Or you could think, is there a way I can make a choice today that might save me $5 a week, might gain me $5 a week, and after 2 years, if my maths is correct, after less than 2 years, slightly less than 2 years, I'll have made my money back. After 4 years, I'll have made that sum again. I'll have, you know, doubled it. And, you know, after 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, whatever, you know, I'll actually have made money off of this, you know, this bad incident. And you can apply that. It's not just something you can apply to money. You can apply that to a lot of things. You can apply that to so many aspects of life. it's not always possible, or it's not always easy, it's not always straightforward, the path is not always clear, and sometimes you might not be able to get the exact results you want out of it, but it's a mindset or a reaction that you can apply to a lot of situations, and it's helped me a lot. Like, for example, I lost a load of notes years ago, like years and years ago. I lost like all my notes from my phone, and they're all like, you know, ideas and stuff and lyrics and different things, and it was horrible. And then I just thought, well, if I just make a point of like obsessively writing everything down and keeping like notepads everywhere and keep a backed up note thing on my computer, and every time I'm like too tired to write a note down, I'll just be like, fuck it, I'll write it down, I'll wake up, I'll do it, and I'll make sure I stick really diligently to it, and I sort of compensate for this, then in the end it won't have been such a bad thing, you know. And I'll also simultaneously use it as motivation to just like work harder on all these projects and try and do more. And it worked, it helped. I think it gave me like a big sort of boost in a way, you know, and I'd still like to have them back. I can't have them back, but yeah, it helped. So there's that, there's how you react to things. I'm gonna sit down on my way to do a workout. I've got the gymnastics rings with me. Hence the hat and lack of glasses. Yeah, so there's that, and there's also the fact that you don't know what's going to happen. Certain things, I did a video ages ago about like blessings in disguise, because there's been a lot of those in my life, like things that have been really bad at the time that have turned out to be really fortunate, things that I missed out on, or I thought I was missing out on, and I look back and I think, Jesus, that is so lucky that thing went in quotes wrong, you know. Like I'm so grateful for most of those things, honestly. Like, I'm grateful for most of those things. And yeah, that I was watching Shia LaBeouf on John Bernthal's podcast. He's a weird guy, Shia LaBeouf. He talks like he was in the army or something. He wasn't in the army, he was a child actor. But he's like, yes sir, yes, rah rah. He keeps talking about like rah rah and like sexy and stuff. And he uses all these really weird terms. He's like, I was on some rah rah shit. Yes sir, I was on that rah rah shit. I don't know what he thinks he is or why he speaks like that. It's very odd. And he kept in this interview talking about things being sexy. He was like, yeah, I wanted to act, but like, it wasn't sexy. I wanted it to be sexy. Stop saying sexy, man. Like, especially when you're trying to like clear your name after, you know, accusations against you. It's odd to keep referring to everything as sexy. But I don't know, I have mixed feelings about Shia LaBeouf. I find him to be quite interesting, more interesting than the average sort of Hollywood actor. At least he's not, you know, giving completely generic PR responses to everything. But I don't know what I think of his sort of overall spiel. I felt like a lot of his interesting behaviour came about after he was accused of plagiarism, and then suddenly he was like, ooh, I'm freaky, I'm interesting. That's what happened. It was an art piece. I'm experimental. A bit like when Kramer from Seinfeld said those things on stage, and then he started going, ooh, it shocks you. It shocks you, trying to pretend that he was like Lenny Bruce or something, you know, rather than just that he got angry and said the N-word. He was like, ooh, it shocks you, do you see? I was like, no, man, you're not being experimental. You were just furious. So anyway, yeah, Shia LaBeouf, anyway. He's like, oh yeah, rah-rah, I was on my rah-rah shit, dude. And he starts telling this story, this fable. It's quite good. I don't know, there's a difference between a fable and a parable, but he's telling one of these about, well, you should listen to it. It's an interesting interview with him, honestly, like, because even if he's faking, I sometimes do feel like his life is just one big acting performance. And I must say also, I was waiting a long time for Shia LaBeouf to become a really great actor. And there's not much I've seen him in that I thought he's been really good in. I always sort of wanted him to be, you know, I always thought, yeah, I like the idea of Shia LaBeouf, you know, even Stevens being really great. But I haven't seen him in anything that I thought was that brilliant. I think he overdoes it a bit. I think he tries a bit too hard. I think a lot of actors have that problem where they these days in particular, they're like, this is my moment coming up, you know, and they're like trying too hard to like be the whole film and to just overact everything, just do too much. They're all trying to be like Daniel Day-Lewis, but they're not Daniel Day-Lewis. And also, Daniel Day-Lewis only does that when it's an appropriate role, like There Will Be Blood. You know, he doesn't go into like a movie like Chicago and stop being like, you know, like screaming at everyone, because it's not appropriate for that movie. Yeah, Shia LaBeouf I think does that a little bit much for me. Like it's just all just like doing so much with his face. But I have mixed feelings about Shia LaBeouf basically, and I don't know if all this stuff in this interview is sort of put on. I don't think he's deliberately doing that. I think maybe sort of bullshitting himself a bit. But I kind of like him. I sort of at the very least, it's hard to knock a man who's like trying to improve himself and who's, you know, found God and trying to help other people and trying to put his life into things which he believes are good. I think people have to be, you know, open to that. But whatever. Anyway, I don't want to get into all that because that's, you know, the whole can of worms. But yeah, he tells this fable in there anyway. Basically, I don't really want to repeat it because I can't remember it exactly, and I feel I won't do it justice. But basically, I think it's a Chinese thing, and these things keep happening to this family. Like one example in it is the son breaks his leg while he's out working on the fields, and he can't farm anymore. He can't do farming, and then they're like, oh, he says to his dad, this is so terrible, and his dad's like, well, we don't know. The way Shia LaBeouf words it in his weird sort of military speak is like, can't call it, and he keeps saying this. He keeps being like, can't call it, and making it like very dramatic and sort of military. But basically, the dad's like, yeah. The gist of it is the dad is like, I don't know. Maybe this is good. Maybe it's bad. And everything that happens, he refuses to say if it's good or bad. He refuses to judge the situation as good or bad. And then the son breaks his leg and he can't farm anymore. And then the next day, the military come through and they're like, we want all able-bodied men to come and fight in the army. You're going to fight. You're going to be on the front line. And then the dad's like, his leg's broken. He can't fight. And so it turns out it was a good thing. And these things keep happening over and over again. And the dad keeps, you know, saying you don't know. And basically just refusing to judge the situation, which is a very, it's like a kind of stoic mindset. I would say, well, I guess it's not specifically stoic, but I guess Stoic, Zen, and various other sort of philosophy. Oh, look at that fucking driving past on his phone. Honestly, the texting while driving epidemic is absolutely mental. It's what makes it even more annoying for me that I can't get my fucking license. The amount of people I see, man, who fucking... I've nearly been run over so many times by people either speeding through crossings or texting or like eating. It's unbelievable. Yeah, I read one study said that if you text while driving, you're like 10 times more likely to be in an accident or something, and people are like, it's fine, I'm in control. It's like, you're not. You think you are, you're fucking not. And you'll go, oh, I'm just doing it here on this road, it's a 20 mile an hour road, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but that's how it starts. And when you allow yourself to do it, you give yourself an inch, you end up subconsciously, without realizing it, unconsciously taking a mile, you know. So yeah, anyway, that's the idea. Like, don't judge situations before they full stop. Just don't judge them, and that's impossible, you know. And I don't really agree with like trying to not have any feelings about anything. I think if you don't have your feelings, you don't have much, really, do you? Just like awareness, and I'm not really into all that. But I do think it's an ideal that we should kind of strive for, because we'll never get there anyway. So trying to not react to things and trying to feel less about things kind of is impossible, but by getting like halfway there, you'll probably help yourself a lot, I think, like generally feeling things less. Not joy, I think it's good to feel a lot of joy and excitement, and some people who are into this kind of stuff, they think it's like bad to feel excitement and adrenaline, and that these things lead to you ending up, disappointed and whatever. I don't think so. I think it's better to work towards trying to maximize positive feelings when you can, maybe not maximize, but emphasize them and engage with them and enjoy them. I keep trying to adjust my glasses; they're not on my face, and also trying to diminish or minimize negative feelings, or at least not let them enter your life in excess. So it's hard to know, honestly. Like this situation I'm in. My for anyone who did see the other videos, I don't want to assume everyone is aware of the context of it, but the my driving teacher basically admitted to me that I was robbed, and that I did enough to pass. And he said sort of like, I was like, well, the fuck is all this shit about? I went on about it to him, and the next day he was like, I was sorry I didn't get back to you. And he was like, yeah, like you drove really well, but they have to go off what they see, and it happens, but I'll make sure you pass as soon as possible. The whole thing is filthy, to be honest. It's absolutely filthy. If I told him what I had going on that day with my family, he probably would have told the guy to pass me. He probably would have said before the exam, make this one of the 2 passes of the day, because they arbitrarily, I think, decide like we have to fail this person, fail that person. It's his first exam in the area, just fail him. It's notorious for this, it's known as like a mafia. So I think I'm a victim of that, and of having moved to a new province. So I'm essentially like, it's my first exam as far as they're concerned, and their interest is to keep themselves in a job and keep it as busy as possible. So they sort of just arbitrarily fail X amount of people per day, and I was obviously a prime candidate for that. So there was that. In a way, it made me feel kind of better, and I think it'll be fine next time. And I know I drove well enough to pass, so it's only a matter of time. And then the situation with my family member, we got, like, I would say not good news today, but not the worst news it could have been. Better news. It was an improvement on what we were thinking last week. It was an improvement on what we heard. And again, it was one of those things, we didn't really account for those possibilities. We got the diagnosis, and it was like, well, that's what this person has, and there's no way around it. True, but to what extent do they have it? Is it advanced? Is it treatable? Is it really bad, or is it just quite bad? And there are usually there's like degrees to these things, so it's good to take a moment before, well, not to take a moment before reacting, but it's just good to bear that in mind when you're going through these things. It's good to bear in mind, like, in a situation, next time you're in a situation like this, like, could be useful to sort of say to yourself, okay, like, nothing unrealistic is going to happen, right? So let's say, for example, you've just had like a parking ticket, which is something I don't know anything about at this stage, although I'm sure I can look forward to receiving many of those. You've received a parking ticket or a speeding ticket or something, right? And you already, like, you have like nothing in the bank account. You've just been hit, and it's like £100 or dollars or whatever, 300, however much they cost, I don't know, and you're thinking this is fucked, like, and there's some sort of like credit card repayment that's come out or something, and it's like, this is fucked. Okay, so you're like probably not going to win the lottery, right? Like, that's not going to happen. There's nothing crazy is going to happen. You're not going to suddenly be given like millions of dollars or whatever. But from within that situation, try to think, well, in realistic terms, if we're speaking within the realms of reality and possibility, what's like the best thing that could happen here? What is the least bad outcome? What's the least bad outcome of this situation? And just remember that that's possible, at least, try to remember that that's possible. And when it's a situation like I had last week, where it's lots of things going wrong at once, just look at each one of those things and think, okay, well, what's the least bad outcome with this situation and the least bad outcome with that situation? And And at the very least, you know, you might give yourself something a bit more to hold on to than just the worst case scenario, and that might put you in a better position mentally to react to things and manage the situation and deal with it. So lesson learned for me, because when you're in it, when you've been hit by the sting of something like that, or the sort of gut punch of it, and you're kind of winded, it's hard to envision anything else, and it immediately sort of knocks you, and you just can't really get your footing, get your bearings. And so it's you think, no, this is it, I can't see anything else, this is it, this is fucked. It's very hard to really see it, and sometimes, to be honest, you don't want to, because it feels like it's kind of invalidating what you're going through. But it's worth trying if you can, I think. And yeah, I have to make a mental note to do that more in future. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, thanks again, thanks as usual for all the comments, support, people subscribing and watching the channel. Really appreciate it. Hope you guys are all doing well, and yeah, take care.